Welcome to Sharing Our Cultures. This is the place where you get to meet amazing individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds who are making a difference in our community. Joining us today is Dr. Nikal Joshi, and we'll be right back. Joining me now is Dr. Nikal Joshi, clinical immunologist and allergist, author, creator of a mobile app, and he's with us here today to tell us all about what he's been doing. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Lloydetta. It's great to be here.
Great. It's great to have you. It's good to see you. And we really want to find out about the books that you've authored. And The Companions, one of them, and The End of Suffering. I know there's a lot involved with writing that, but maybe you can tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah. So I think I wrote The Companion when I was 19.
Okay.
I think I was depressed. I think I was dealing with the big issues of life and struggling with them. And I found writing was really cathartic. And it was my first love. It was the first thing I really enjoyed doing while I was a university student. And it helped me, I think, put down what I thought about the world and what I hoped the world could be. I want to be an optimist. I want to see the world in a positive light, even when things are difficult for me and for others.
Okay, and I think that actually resonated with a lot of young people at that time, and adults as well, who were going through such difficulties.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it did. We hope that the things that we write are universal. I was unprepared for the journey of being a writer. I just thought that you just wrote and published and then millions of people read your books. It's not like that at all. And it's fraught with a lot of frustration and failure and rejection. And I think it set me up for a life of rejection, which I'm grateful for. You need to be good with that in order to eventually become successful.
Yes. It does help to keep you grounded in some way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nothing like being rejected by a publishing house or a writer's agent over and over and over again to really keep you humble. Yeah. And it's an experience you don't forget. So even when you go on in life and if things work out for you, you always remember the 100 rejections that kind of preceded all of that. Yeah.
Right. Yes, and it does develop perseverance as well.
Yeah. Oh yes, you're right. And that is probably the single most important part of being successful is perseverance, resilience, because you're going to run up against failure. And when you begin your journey, you think failure is something to be despised. You think it's something that you want to avoid at all costs. When realistically, it's all just the same journey. It's just you knocking on doors, and after the 100th one opens. And learning that it's all part of the process is good. It's a good learning, and it changes your relationship with success and failure. It's the same thing.
Yeah, oh, that's great. And of course, then so many years later, you wrote The End of Suffering. Tell us about that and give us a little bit of the context.
Sure. So I had finished my cancer journey. So I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2013. Maybe it was even earlier than that, to tell you the truth. It's so long ago now. But finishing that journey, and while I was on it, I just had to write. And I wrote a lot. I wrote a blog. I wrote for CBC Radio and did a radio show as Dr. C. But I just had so much inside of me at that time. And so I wrote The End of Suffering for anyone going through difficulty, any difficulty. And I wrote these small passages that were supposed to ease someone's suffering and help them see the light or be optimistic and feel good again. And so I wrote it for myself, but I realized that the situation I was in is going to happen to everyone in life. Everyone in life will have difficulty. Everyone in life will suffer at some point. And I hoped that this work could help guide people out of that, no matter what they were going through.
And what do you feel sort of helped you go through that? I know you had the radio show, which congratulations, won. Yeah, tell us about that.
I think what helped me the most was my family. I mean, there's no doubt that going through something difficult is easier together. And so I'm very grateful for my mom and my father, who were right there next to me at that time. Um, the other thing that I think really helped me was I was here in St. John's. I was in Newfoundland, and I just felt like the whole city was warm and had my back and looked after me and cared. And that's a unique thing that I don't think you'll get anywhere else in the world. Is the idea is, being here is so warm, and it breaks all the norms of a regular city that you would expect. And so I felt like I felt supported here in a way that I've never felt in any other city in the world.
Right. And of course, that support was what helped you in addition to all the other things you had going on around you. You were still even a medical student prior to that, and then you were finding your way through. So, what was that like for you?
To be a patient from being a physician is a drastic journey. It's a change from one side to the other, and I think it was important for me because I didn't understand what patients went through. Now I understand the great things that we do in medicine, but I also understand the things that we don't do so well, and I am attuned to that. I see patients and their caregivers now, and I see the whole picture in a way I never did previously, and it'll never escape me. Like it's a lesson that's kind of like singed into you with the chemotherapy, and
Yes.
it doesn't leave you.
Right.
And I'm grateful. I don't want to forget what it was like. When you look after a person with chronic illness, you suffer as well. And the dynamics between the patient and the caregiver are important. And when you're a patient with chronic illness, it's not always about the illness. Sometimes it's about the stress of the illness. It's about the experience of being sick that is worse than the actual illness itself. And so learning about the mental components, the social components of being ill made me a better doctor.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I know during that time when you were going through it and you had the radio show, so many people were comforted as a result of that, the impact it had on them and on their lives. And what was that like for you and for those around you and those your colleagues that you worked with?
I think I knew a little bit that it was helping people, but I didn't know as much. So I never read comments. I know there were lots of positive comments, but as a rule, I'll never read the comments on anything I do, just because I don't want to get anything into my head. Good, bad, whatever, I can't let anything into my head. So people would tell me, my friends would tell me that, there were hundreds of thousands of listeners and people have written nice things, and, I'm grateful for that, but I try to keep it at arm's length. That way, success or failure doesn't move me. It doesn't, success doesn't get to my head and failure doesn't put me in the ground because I'm in my own little bubble. And I've lived my life like that. At the hospital, I think that it felt great to have, all my colleagues were pulling for me and they cared, they did whatever they could to help me, and I felt supported through my medical career. When I came back, they eased me back into medicine. They didn't throw me on call right away. I appreciated that. That made a difference for me. And then when I went back to working with cancer patients, it was deeply emotional for me because it was fresh, but I still felt like I could do tremendous good at that time. So I'm thankful. I didn't go into oncology or hematology afterwards. It was a little too close to home, but I appreciated the journey.
Right, that's right. And so that has helped you, even in the field of medicine that you are right now, to be able to connect with your patients because you've known what it has been like to be a patient.
Yes, I know what it's like to wait. I know what it's like to, wait for a diagnosis. I know what it's like to wait in a doctor's waiting room. So I try to make sure they don't wait too long, and if they do, I'm profusely sorry. But I understand their journey a lot better now, and I'm hopeful that we can work to make it better.
Right, yeah. And having had that experience, your patients have a better understanding of who you are as a doctor and as a person. Because I think when you interact with your patients, they got to see the human side of you first and then your profession.
I hope so. I don't think anyone Googles me, Lodetta. I think I'm okay. I think most of them just show up.
They know that they can count on you, and they know they can be who they are with you, and have your professional support that they need at a time when they're going through a medical crisis.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope they feel that I'm there for them, and I hope I give them the service that I would want.
That's right, and we're so appreciative of you and having the opportunity for you to be with us here today. We're also hoping that we would learn a bit more about what you've done, your mobile app that you have, and the work that you're doing with patients now. So I think we'll take a short break and we'll be back.
Sounds great.
Welcome back to Sharing Our Cultures. I have with me Dr. Nikal Joshi. I'd like to find out from you your clinical mobile app that you created. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. It's called Clinical Trial Hero.
Okay.
This is a app that's on every platform. So it's on your phone, it's on tablets, it's on your computer, and it's about helping patients find clinical trials near them. So when we look at patients in the system, many of them have chronic illnesses. And clinical trials are the building blocks by which we defeat these different diseases, whether it's COVID-19 or something like cancer or ulcerative colitis. So clinical trials are really important, and they have a ability to improve our scientific understanding of the world and introduce new medications and products that can change people's lives and their experience of illness. So this app was created to help empower patients to find clinical trials near them and try to speed up the clinical research, the process. The process is really slow. 80% of clinical trials are delayed. 85% of them fail to recruit significant amounts of people. So we need to do better with this process. And if we do better with this process, we will see a boom in Canada in terms of our biotech and our pharmaceutical divisions, but we'll also see new products come to market, and patients who have long suffered have a chance at doing better, at perhaps even being cured.
All right, that's fantastic. So how has that been then so far for you since you started working on this?
It's been 4 years, Lydetta. So it's been 4 years, and finally now it seems to be picking up traction. Okay. So finally now there's some government grants. Now there are interested customers. So it took a long time, and this was a project that I had done myself entirely. So I'd started it from the beginning, and have taken it to this point right now, and I'm tired. I'm really tired, and it's been difficult, yeah. But I finally see the light, and I see that the ability to help people is just around the corner.
Right. Well, congratulations. I really hear your heart in this, and you stood through it, and you didn't give up. You persevered, and 4 years later, we still have it. So that's one thing, I've always admired about you, that whatever comes your way, you always persevered. You've always pushed through and made it to the end. And congratulations. I think this is really great.
Thank you. My mother would say I'm very stubborn, so this is a positive spin on it. I appreciate it, yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. Yes, well, Sharing Our Cultures, this particular program, we sometimes think of the youth who participate in the program, and I want to find out from you what's that like for you as a young person growing up here in Newfoundland, and if you have some words of encouragement maybe to young people in high school who have the future ahead of them and they're just wondering what they could do and how they could be someone like you. I'm sure you're one of the role models for them.
Thank you. I would say to the youth that, you're growing up in a wonderful place that has so many different opportunities. Be rooted in who you are. Know who you are. Know your culture and where you come from, and know the culture of the place around you and appreciate it. Sharing Our Cultures was one of those programs that actually had this unique positive view, which was that where we come from is important and where we are is also important. And loving these two things are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they're complementary. So, be who you are and love where you are. It's a very special place. In terms of what you can do in order to get to where you want to, the most important thing is actually obsession. It's about being obsessed with the one thing that you want, and being willing to go through anything to achieve it. That is true for anyone of any culture who seeks to do something great, but it may be even especially true if you're a newcomer and you're learning to adapt. So that level of work and obsession is important. It does involve sacrifice. Nothing great is possible without some sacrifice. So, but if you feel like what you're doing is important, if you feel like what you're doing is who you are, your mission, then it becomes easier. Then there's no other choice. And the things that you leave behind, the things that don't happen for you, don't bother you as much because you see the one thing that you want. Finally, I think the last thing I would tell everyone is to have a good time. You're not gonna be young forever, so enjoy it and enjoy the process of having great friends, of living here and enjoying it. But ultimately, to get ahead in this world, you're going to have to find a passion and pursue it to the end of the earth.
And of course, that's what you did, that's what you continue to do, and for which we appreciate it very much. And I was also wondering what it was like for you, because you did your high school, your schooling here, and what was that like for you? Because we were still minority youth, which local youth here now, new immigrant youth who've come here are also minority in their schools and in various other places of social.
Yes, I was blessed to be at a time when I think I knew I was a minority. However, I didn't find that whole thing defined me. I always thought that my identity as a person was complex, was about who I was, the music I enjoyed, and the things I valued. So, for minority youth, I understand that a big part of life will be understanding your own culture and navigating other cultures as a minority. But I would also tell them to be open to being who they want to be. The world will respond to who you think you are and who you say you are. So I had the mindset that I was me and that I was a unique person that wasn't solely defined by the color of my skin. And whether other people agreed with me or not, I didn't care. And I hope they feel the same way. And I hope they always open their hearts in order to let people in, regardless of different cultures or skin colors, because love is a universal thing.
And what do you feel kind of motivated you to think that way and to live that way?
I think what motivated me to feel and think that way were my parents. I think my mom felt that way and wanted me to feel that way, despite having grown up at an even earlier time and probably dealing with more issues and prejudice at her time of life. She had sacrificed and had made sure that I had thought very highly of myself and made sure that I thought the world was a good place. And that thought, that belief, made the world a good place.
Right, because you were thinking it within yourself and living it out among everyone else.
Yes.
Right. So what would be some words of wisdom you'd like to leave with young people or young families that have migrated here or want to migrate to this province? What would you?
I would say that the most important thing in life isn't our struggles, but our response to these struggles. And that response is within our power. So we will all undergo great hardship at one point and loss. But who we are is how we respond to these things. And that is something that we have agency and control over. And that's the most beautiful part of life, is that we get to choose our way no matter the difficulty of the obstacles in front of us.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, I want to mention back the book that you wrote, The End of Suffering and The Companion, and some words of wisdom from either of those that you'd like to share as we wind down the conversation.
You know what? I will. I don't know if I remember anything offhand, but I'll read one.
Right. Okay.
In India, there was a woman who wept for her dead child. She asked a saint for the life of her child back. The saint agreed, but first gave the woman a task: to bring him a handful of salt from a house without sorrow. After visiting every house in the village, the woman understood. And now so do you.
Wow. That is powerful. That is powerful. Thank you so much, Nikal. It's been a pleasure, Dr. Joshi. It's been a pleasure having you with us on Sharing Our Culture Show. And you've always I just didn't have enough words to say, but you always touch the hearts of so many people when you speak and when you share what you've gone through and who you are as a person. And we really do appreciate that about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lloydetta, for this show. I think it has a tremendous contribution to so many people. I think you guys do a lot of great here. And I'm really happy to be here and to have been part of this journey.
Thank you so much. Thanks to Dr. Nikal Joshi and to you for watching. Join us again for another episode of Sharing Our Cultures.
Bangladesh.
Sudan.
I was born in North Carolina and I moved here afterwards.
I was born in Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm originally from South Sudan.
Chile.
We're from Syria.
Canada. Sudan. Bangladesh. I've been living here for 2 years now.
حاسة لي سنتين في نيوفنلاند.
I've been living here for 17 years.
I've been living in Newfoundland for 9 years.
Ça fait 7 ans que je suis ici.
Living in St. John from 4 to 5 years.
I've been living here about 3 years.
17 years.
I've been living in Canada for 3 years and in St. John's for 6 months.
The experience, the culture that people bring from different part of the world. It was very hard for me to find my own community in school, and I had to go to different gatherings to find my own people.
رغم إنه ما في سودانيين كتير هنا في نيوفنلاند، بس يعني فيها ناس يعني من أماكن كتيرة وأماكن مختلفة. وفعلا الناس هنا كويسين وبيرحبوا بالناس وبيساعدوا فعلا.
I think Newfoundland and St. John's is a very welcoming place with a lot of diversity where everyone can feel comfortable where they are.
Diversity is very important to me as it enables creativity and newfound perspectives. Diversity allows us to be empathetic, it allows us to be more accepting, and allows us to learn new skills and overcome barriers.
Comme une des seules personnes chiliennes qui vit ici, personnellement, je crois que la diversité peut grandir plus, mais en même temps,
je suis vraiment fière du progrès qu'on a fait en moins de décennies.
Playing soccer brings us together no matter our race, color of skin, or religion.
The value of diversity is that everyone's opinions and input matters to something that affects us all, and a sense of belonging is something that we all strive for.
Diversity is learning from a variety of different people and collaborating to better both each other and the community.
So compared to Toronto, which is a melting pot of cultures, St. John's felt a lot more homogenous, but finding my own Bengali and Muslim community here has made the whole experience a lot more positive.